Imagine for a moment that every step you take is not just moving you forward physically, but also rewiring your brain, reshaping your body, and recharging your energy systems. The way we move, how we walk, the rhythm of our gait, the mechanics of our posture directly influences how our nervous system functions, how our hormones are released, and even how our mind focuses. For years, the idea of 10,000 steps a day has been the gold standard, but emerging science is showing us that it's not just about the number of steps, it's about the quality and the method of those steps. What I want to share with you today is a fascinating technique developed and refined in Japan, a walking method that's been shown to be more than twice as effective as simply hitting a step count. It taps into the natural coordination between your breath, your musculature, and your nervous system. It harnesses your body's built-in feedback loops to maximize cardiovascular health, fat metabolism, and even mental clarity. This isn't a gimmick. This is physiology, real, measurable effects that change how your brain and body function in real time. When you adopt this new way of walking, you're no longer just exercising, you're activating a system that doubles the return on your effort. You'll find yourself more alert, your stress levels reduced, your endurance improve, and your daily movement transformed from a routine task into a highly efficient tool for energy, focus, and long-term health. Breathing step synchronization is a practice rooted in the direct relationship between respiration and locomotion, something that both neuroscience and physiology highlight as one of the most effective ways to enhance performance, endurance, and overall health. To understand why synchronizing your breath with your steps is so powerful, it's important to first look at how breathing actually regulates your nervous system. Breathing is unique in that it is both an automatic process and one we can take conscious control over. It operates at the level of the autonomic nervous system, specifically the balance between the sympathetic branch, which drives alertness and energy, and the parasympathetic branch, which promotes calm and recovery. When you walk without awareness, your breathing often becomes shallow or irregular, and while you may still benefit from the movement itself, you're missing the opportunity to harness the profound effects of rhythmic breath control. By coupling breath patterns with step cadence, you're effectively creating a closed-loop system where your brain, body, and lungs operate in synchrony, enhancing oxygen delivery, metabolic efficiency, and neural clarity. From a physiological standpoint, walking with synchronized breathing impacts your tidal volume, the amount of air taken in with each breath, and your CO2 tolerance, which is a critical factor in endurance and focus. When you align steps with inhalation and exhalation, say inhaling for 3 steps and exhaling for 3, you establish a rhythm that regulates gas exchange in a way that's far more efficient than breathing randomly. This rhythm ensures that oxygen is delivered deeply into the alveoli of the lungs, where gas exchange with the bloodstream is optimized. At the same time, carbon dioxide, which is often thought of merely as waste, is managed in a way that keeps blood pH in balance. When CO2 levels are stabilized through structured breathing, hemoglobin more effectively releases oxygen to the tissues, a mechanism known as the Bohr effect. This means that every muscle fiber, every neuron is receiving oxygen more efficiently, allowing the same physical effort to yield far greater returns. The Japanese walking technique that leverages breath-step synchronization builds upon this science by emphasizing consistency and awareness rather than intensity. Instead of simply hitting a step goal like 10,000 steps, you engage in deliberate walking where every breath cycle is coordinated with the movement of your body. For example, inhaling through the nose for 3 steps and exhaling through the mouth for 2 steps creates a 5-beat cycle that matches the natural oscillations of your diaphragm and intercostal muscles. This technique doesn't just increase cardiovascular efficiency, it rewires your brain's motor circuits to favor rhythm and coherence. Neural circuits in the brainstem and cortex that regulate locomotion and breathing begin to couple together, creating what neuroscientists call an entrained state. This entrainment not only enhances physical endurance, but also has a powerful impact on cognitive clarity and emotional regulation. There's also a direct mechanical link between breathing and movement that is often overlooked. Each time you inhale, the diaphragm contracts and moves downward, creating pressure in the abdominal cavity. This pressure mechanically stabilizes your core and supports your posture as you walk. When breathing is synchronized with steps, this stabilization is not random but timed perfectly with the shifting load of each stride. This means your gait becomes smoother, your joints experience less impact stress, and your muscles are engaged in a way that conserves energy. Athletes, martial artists, and even military endurance trainers have long known that this type of synchronization reduces fatigue and increases stamina. In fact, studies have shown that runners and walkers who practice breath-step coordination can go significantly longer before reaching exhaustion compared to those who breathe erratically. One of the most profound benefits of breath-step synchronization is its effect on the brain's state of alertness. Breathing patterns are one of the fastest ways to shift neural activity between different states. Rapid, shallow breathing elevates sympathetic tone, priming the body for action, but also potentially driving stress. Slow, deliberate breathing increases parasympathetic activity, promoting calm but sometimes reducing alertness. A synchronized breathing pattern with walking balances these two systems, producing what neuroscientists call a state of relaxed focus. This state is ideal for both physical performance and cognitive tasks because it allows you to be alert without the detrimental effects of stress hormones. Cortisol and adrenaline are kept in check, while neurotransmitters like acetylcholine and dopamine are optimized for learning, motivation, and sustained effort. It's also worth noting the role of nasal breathing in this practice. When you inhale through the nose during walking, you filter and humidify the air, but more importantly, you produce nitric oxide in the sinuses. Nitric oxide is a powerful vasodilator, meaning it relaxes the blood vessels and improves circulation. This increases oxygen delivery not only to the muscles but also to the brain. The combination of nasal inhalation, synchronized with steps, and controlled exhalation creates a cascade of physiological benefits that far exceed the benefits of unconsciously walking while distracted or breathing through the mouth without rhythm. Exhaling through the mouth in a measured way also engages the vagus nerve, sending signals to the brainstem that promote calmness and stabilize heart rate variability, a key marker of resilience and health. The energetic benefits of this synchronization extend beyond physical efficiency. When the body's movements and breathing are aligned, the perception of effort decreases. This phenomenon, often called the psychophysiological economy, means that the same workload feels easier, allowing you to maintain higher activity levels with less perceived strain. In practical terms, this means that a 30-minute synchronized walking session can produce similar or greater cardiovascular and metabolic benefits as a much longer session of unstructured walking. For individuals trying to optimize their health within limited time, this is a game changer, effectively doubling the return on investment for the time spent. Another critical aspect is how this practice influences brain plasticity. The brain thrives on rhythm and patterned activity. Walking while synchronizing your breath creates predictable, repeating cycles of sensory input from the feet, proprioceptive feedback from the muscles and joints, and interoceptive signals from the lungs and diaphragm. This predictability fosters neural plasticity, enhancing the brain's ability to adapt and rewire. Over time, people who engage in this kind of rhythmic movement report improvements in focus, reductions in anxiety, and even heightened creativity. These are not vague psychological effects, but measurable changes in brainwave patterns, specifically increased alpha wave coherence, which is associated with relaxed yet attentive states. Even at the level of metabolism, breath-step synchronization offers unique benefits. By controlling the length of exhalation, you increase CO2 retention slightly, which challenges the body to adapt and improve its tolerance for carbon dioxide. This adaptation improves your ability to buffer lactic acid during exertion, delaying fatigue and enhancing recovery. It also shifts the body toward fat oxidation as a fuel source, which is one reason why this technique is touted as more effective than simply logging 10,000 unstructured steps. The metabolic flexibility developed through this practice means that your body becomes more efficient at using stored energy, a key factor in maintaining health and preventing metabolic disorders. In addition, the psychological component of deliberate, synchronized walking cannot be overlooked. Unlike aimless walking, which often accompanies multitasking or distraction, synchronized breath-step walking demands awareness. This mindful attention creates a meditative quality to the practice. The repeated cycles of breath and step act almost like a mantra, quieting the mind and reducing cognitive chatter. Many people who adopt this method report that it feels like moving meditation, producing a sense of calm clarity that persists long after the walk is over. This is not just anecdotal. Studies on rhythmic breathing and locomotion show reductions in markers of anxiety and depression, suggesting that this technique is not only a physical exercise, but also a powerful mental health tool. Posture and muscle engagement during walking is one of the most underestimated aspects of physical health and performance, yet it has an enormous impact on energy expenditure, calorie burn, and long-term resilience of the body. The Japanese walking technique emphasizes not just moving forward, but doing so in a way that activates specific muscle groups, aligns the body structurally, and recruits core stability in every step. When people walk without awareness, their posture often collapses, shoulders slump forward, the pelvis tilts improperly, and the muscles that should be engaged remain dormant. This not only reduces efficiency, but also leads to fatigue and joint strain. By contrast, when posture is corrected and the proper muscles are intentionally engaged, every step becomes a full body exercise, transforming what seems like a simple activity into a deeply effective practice that can double the energetic and metabolic returns compared to standard walking. At the foundation of posture is spinal alignment. The spine is designed as a dynamic structure that distributes weight efficiently while allowing flexibility. When you walk with your spine tall, crown of the head lifted, and shoulders rolled back and relaxed, you activate the deep postural muscles along the vertebral column, known as the erector spina. This activation not only supports the spine, but also prevents the forward head posture and rounded shoulders that are so common in modern life. Good spinal alignment also allows the diaphragm to move freely, improving breathing efficiency, which directly influences endurance and oxygen utilization. When posture collapses, the diaphragm is restricted, breaths become shallow, and energy levels plummet. Thus, posture is not cosmetic, it is a physiological driver of performance. Equally important is the role of the pelvis and core muscles in walking. In many people, especially those who sit for long hours, the hip flexors tighten, the glutes become underactive, and the pelvis tilts forward. This creates what is sometimes referred to as lower cross syndrome, where the core is weak and the lower back is strained. The Japanese walking method trains you to tuck the pelvis slightly, engage the lower abdominals, and activate the gluteal muscles with each step. When the glutes fire properly, they become the primary engine of movement, propelling the body forward with powerful, efficient strides. This engagement not only increases calorie burn, but also offloads strain from the knees and lower back, reducing risk of injury. Every step, therefore, becomes a compound movement involving the core, hips, and legs rather than just a shuffle driven by passive momentum. The upper body is equally important in this process. Proper arm swing during walking is not just a balance mechanism. It is an energy amplifier. When the arms are bent at roughly 90 degrees and swung naturally from the shoulders, they generate torque that assists with forward propulsion. This movement activates the muscles of the shoulders, chest, and back, essentially turning walking into a coordinated, full body movement. The Japanese approach encourages intentional yet relaxed arm movements that align with the rhythm of the breath and steps. This distributes workload evenly across the body, reducing localized fatigue and allowing for sustained effort. Over time, this balanced engagement tones the muscles of the upper body in addition to the lower body, offering a holistic training effect. Muscle engagement in walking also relies heavily on foot placement and ground contact. Many people land heavily on the heel with each step, sending shock through the joints and limiting muscle activation. The optimized technique encourages a softer landing, often midfoot or forefoot dominant, which distributes impact more evenly and forces engagement of the calves, hamstrings, and intrinsic foot muscles. These muscles act like springs, storing and releasing elastic energy, which not only improves efficiency, but also increases calorie expenditure because more muscle fibers are being recruited with every stride. Over time, this strengthens the arches of the feet, improves balance, and enhances overall athletic capacity. It also prevents the lethargic shuffle that characterizes much of modern walking, turning each step into a conscious and powerful action. Another critical aspect is the role of posture in regulating energy efficiency. When posture is aligned and muscles are properly engaged, the body moves with minimal wasted motion. Each stride transfers energy seamlessly through the kinetic chain from the feet through the legs, hips, spine, and arms. This reduces the micro inefficiencies that accumulate when posture is poor. Over a 30-minute walk, those inefficiencies can be the difference between feeling energized or feeling drained. The Japanese method maximizes this energy transfer, allowing the same time investment to yield a significantly higher metabolic output. This is why it is considered more effective than the arbitrary 10,000 step standard, which does not account for how those steps are taken. Beyond immediate calorie burn, proper posture and muscle engagement also impact long-term adaptations in the body. When you consistently activate the glutes, core, and postural muscles during walking, you stimulate hypertrophy and neuromuscular adaptation in these areas. Over weeks and months, this results in stronger, more resilient muscles that burn more calories at rest and support healthier joint mechanics. This adaptive process is what leads to the compounding benefits of the technique. The more you practice, the more efficient and powerful your walking becomes, and the more energy your body expends in the process. This stands in contrast to mindless walking, which often reinforces poor mechanics and produces diminishing returns. From a neurological perspective, posture and muscle engagement during walking also influence how the brain perceives effort. When the body is aligned and muscles are firing correctly, proprioceptive signals from joints and muscles are coherent and predictable. The brain interprets this efficiency as a lower effort state, meaning you can walk longer and faster with less perceived exertion. This perception shift is powerful because it enables consistency and sustainability. People are far more likely to maintain a habit that feels rewarding and energizing rather than one that feels taxing or exhausting. In this sense, the Japanese method not only improves physiology, but also enhances psychology, reinforcing the habit through positive feedback. There is also a hormonal component to this practice. Engaging large muscle groups like the glutes, core, and back stimulates the release of myokines, signaling molecules that improve metabolism, reduce inflammation, and promote overall health. These molecules have systemic effects, influencing everything from insulin sensitivity to brain function. Walking with poor posture and minimal muscle engagement does not trigger the same level of myokine release, meaning the benefits are limited. By maximizing muscle recruitment with every step, you transform walking from a low-intensity maintenance activity into a potent stimulus for systemic health improvements. In terms of biomechanics, posture and muscle engagement also protect the joints. When muscles are active, they absorb and redistribute forces that would otherwise be borne by cartilage, ligaments, and tendons. This not only reduces pain, but also preserves joint health over time. For people with knee or hip issues, learning to walk with proper engagement can dramatically reduce discomfort and extend mobility into later life. This is why the Japanese walking technique is not just about short-term gains, but also about longevity and sustainable health. Finally, posture and muscle engagement have a direct effect on appearance and self-perception. Standing tall, engaging the core, and moving with deliberate power creates a sense of confidence and presence that feeds back into mental state. People who walk with strong posture report feeling more capable, more energized, and more resilient. This psychological shift is not superficial. It is deeply tied to the body's physiology. The brain and body operate as a unified system, and when one is optimized, the other follows. Walking with proper posture and full muscle engagement embodies this principle in action, turning a simple daily activity into a transformative practice that amplifies both energy expenditure and self-mastery. Neural and cognitive benefits of the Japanese walking technique are perhaps the most profound and lasting aspects of the practice because they extend far beyond physical health and touch directly on how the brain functions, adapts, and experiences the world. Walking has always been more than just a way to get from one place to another. It is a deeply integrative process that involves motor control, sensory feedback, balance, and rhythm. When walking is optimized through specific techniques that synchronize breathing, posture, and muscle engagement, the brain is not only coordinating movement, but also strengthening neural pathways, enhancing plasticity, and shifting states of consciousness in ways that sharpen focus, reduce stress, and elevate overall cognitive performance. At the foundation of these benefits is the connection between movement and the brain's executive functions. Walking is rhythmic and bilateral, meaning both hemispheres of the brain are engaged simultaneously as they coordinate the alternating movements of the limbs. This cross-hemispheric activation strengthens communication through the corpus callosum, the bundle of fibers that connects the left and right sides of the brain. When this communication is enhanced, cognitive processes such as problem-solving, creativity, and memory consolidation become more efficient. The Japanese technique amplifies this by adding structured breathing and posture alignment, creating a multi-layered stimulus that integrates motor, sensory, and autonomic systems. This level of integration promotes neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to practice and experience. One of the most immediate neural effects of this walking method is its impact on focus and attention. The act of synchronizing steps with breathing requires awareness and coordination, pulling the brain out of autopilot mode and into a state of deliberate engagement. Neuroscientists describe this as a shift from default mode network activity associated with mind wandering and distraction to task positive network activity, which underlies focused attention and goal-directed behavior. Over time, this repeated shift trains the brain to sustain attention more effectively, reducing tendencies toward distraction and improving productivity in everyday tasks. This is why many people who practice rhythmic walking techniques report feeling mentally sharper and more capable of sustained focus throughout the day. Another key benefit lies in stress regulation. Stress is mediated largely through the autonomic nervous system, which includes the sympathetic branch that triggers fight or flight responses and the parasympathetic branch that promotes rest and recovery. Breathing synchronized with walking exerts a powerful influence on this system by stabilizing heart rate variability, reducing cortisol levels, and promoting balance between the two branches. From a neural perspective, this is mediated through the vagus nerve, which carries signals from the lungs and diaphragm to the brainstem. Each slow, deliberate exhalation during walking activates vagal tone, calming the nervous system and reducing hyperarousal. This creates a physiological state of relaxed alertness, which is optimal for both learning and performance. Unlike passive stress reduction techniques, synchronized walking embeds this regulation directly into movement, making it accessible and sustainable in daily life. Walking in this way also enhances mood and emotional resilience through changes in neurochemistry. Physical activity in general is known to increase the release of endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin, all of which contribute to positive mood and motivation. The Japanese technique amplifies this effect by engaging larger muscle groups, encouraging rhythmic breathing, and sustaining activity at a level that balances intensity with endurance. This combination stimulates the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein that supports the growth of new neurons and synapses. BDNF is often referred to as fertilizer for the brain because of its role in maintaining plasticity, learning, and resilience against neurodegeneration. By consistently practicing this method, individuals can literally reshape their brain chemistry and structure in ways that protect against cognitive decline and enhance emotional stability. Memory and learning also benefit significantly from this type of walking. The hippocampus, the brain structure most directly associated with memory, is highly responsive to both physical exercise and rhythmic activity. When walking with deliberate breathing and posture, blood flow to the hippocampus increases, delivering oxygen and nutrients that support its function. At the same time, rhythmic movement creates oscillatory patterns in brain activity, particularly in the theta frequency range, which is strongly linked to memory encoding and consolidation. This means that walking in this way not only supports existing memory processes, but may also improve the ability to learn and retain new information. Many cultures historically integrated walking with recitation, chanting, or learning tasks for this very reason, intuitively recognizing the powerful synergy between movement and memory. Creativity is another domain where neural benefits become evident. Walking has long been associated with breakthroughs in thinking from philosophers who paced while developing ideas to modern professionals who use walking meetings to stimulate fresh perspectives. The Japanese walking technique enhances this by creating a state of relaxed focus, balancing the brain's divergent thinking processes, which generate ideas, with convergent processes, which refine and evaluate them. The rhythmic nature of the practice creates a kind of neural metronome that stabilizes thought patterns while also opening space for new connections to emerge. This explains why people often find themselves more creative, solution-oriented, and imaginative after a session of deliberate, synchronized walking. An additional cognitive benefit comes from the way this practice enhances sensory awareness. Most people walk while distracted, either lost in thought or absorbed in devices, which dulls sensory input. In contrast, the Japanese method requires attention to breath, posture, and step rhythm, heightening interoception, the sense of the internal state of the body, as well as proprioception, the sense of body position in space. This heightened awareness improves balance, coordination, and reaction times, but it also spills over into greater mindfulness in other aspects of life. Neuroscience research shows that interoceptive awareness is linked to emotional regulation because the ability to sense internal states allows for more adaptive responses to stress and emotion. Thus, by tuning the brain to the body through walking, individuals become better at managing emotions and staying present in the moment. The practice also impacts the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and long-term planning. Exercise in general has been shown to increase blood flow and connectivity in this region, but the added layer of rhythmic coordination makes the stimulus more potent. The prefrontal cortex thrives on structured, patterned activity, and walking with synchronized breathing provides precisely that. Over time, this strengthens executive function, making it easier to regulate impulses, maintain discipline, and align actions with long-term goals. This is why individuals who adopt structured physical practices often report improvements in areas of life that extend well beyond fitness, including work, relationships, and personal development. Neural recovery and mental reset are also supported by this practice. The repetitive, rhythmic nature of synchronized walking induces brain states similar to those observed in meditation. Alpha brain waves associated with calm alertness increase during and after the practice, providing a reset from the overstimulation of modern environments. This allows the brain to recover from cognitive fatigue and restore resources needed for concentration and problem solving. Unlike passive rest, which may not fully disengage the stress response, rhythmic walking provides an active form of recovery that simultaneously relaxes and energizes the brain. This dual effect is particularly valuable in today's world, where stress and mental fatigue are pervasive. Finally, one cannot overlook the social and cultural aspects of neural benefits. Walking is inherently social, and when practiced in groups with synchronized breathing and pacing, it creates a powerful sense of connection and cohesion. Neuroscience explains this through the concept of neural entrainment, where individuals in rhythmic synchrony experience alignment in brain wave patterns and emotional states. This fosters empathy, cooperation, and collective well-being. In a modern context, this means that practicing the Japanese walking technique with others can enhance not only individual cognitive health, but also the quality of social interactions and relationships.